idea that young women looking to join Islamic State are brainwashed or groomed is wrong and could be dangerous. Now, George Galloway has this evening announced his intention to run for Mayor of London in 2016. The former East London MP declared himself a candidate earlier today on social media, and he's encouraged supporters to get in touch to help the campaign. And I'm glad to say that George Galloway joins us now. Good evening to you.
Good evening to you.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Why are you running, George?
Well, I think that London deserves better than the field that's already running, a kind of donkey derby of unimpressive candidates. And I think that the track record in the London mayoralty, first Ken Livingstone, then Boris Johnson, shows that people want an independent-minded mayor. They want someone who's not a creature of the party machines. They want someone who's more than a speak-your-weight machine for the Westminster mainstream, the three cheeks of the same backside that I usually talk about. I think that they're looking for someone who will stand up for ordinary Londoners, for the marginalised communities that have been ignored by the mainstream of the British political system. And I think I might do quite well. And judging by the reaction of my enemies on social media, they're obviously worried about that too.
Well, I think you'll always get a reaction, George. That's something that you've done. What about those who say you're a divisive figure who's been rejected already in London, and you've been rejected in Bradford, and why have you turned up here now? What makes you think London wants you?
Well, of course, we'll discover that in the course of the next 12 months and more, and we'll discover it most of all on polling day. So those that say that shouldn't be worried. If they're confident I'm going to lose, then they have nothing to worry about. The problem is they're not confident that I will lose. The Labour Party in particular knows that there are huge swathes of London disillusioned over the last decade and more with the new Labour milksop politics, and that when someone offers them real Labour red meat, they might go for it.
So what did your previous experience, which I imagine must have been a chastening one, in Bethnal Green and Bow teach you?
Well, I think you've got your facts wrong, if you'll forgive me saying so. I stood in Bethnal Green and Bow only once, and I declared at the beginning of my term that I would stand there only once. So the Evening Standard should not be relied upon when it says I was defeated by Roshanara Ali MP. I never was. I never stood against her.
Okay, well, you were defeated in Bradford, sir.
I was. I've tasted defeat as well as great victories, and we'll see what happens now.
What do you think? What do you think the number one issue is in London?
Housing, undoubtedly. The grotesque spectacle of hundreds of thousands of properties being pushed out of the reach of ordinary Londoners, including essential workers who have to work in London but travel all the hours that God sends in order to get to and from work. The complete lack of social housing, council house building, almost in the single figure.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a politician that I've spoken to in the last decade who hasn't been able to identify it as a problem, and I'm really happy that you have been. I tell you, what we haven't had is a scheme, a policy, an idea to deal with it. And what's yours?
You'll have plenty. You'll have sled loads of policies.
Well, give us a few
from me. Well, I'm about to bring forward the manifesto for London, so you'll forgive me if I save that for that occasion. I'll be speaking up for the people who've been ignored and marginalised in London. And I think that your listeners know that I have a track record on that. But let me give you one thing that I have just tweeted. I will seek to subsume the City of London Police in a new London police force. The City of London Police can catch a pickpocket in Liverpool Street Station, but they appear to have been oblivious to the grand larceny that was going on in the City of London, whose police force they were supposed to be. So there's something for you, a bit of red meat. It will be controversial, but it's one of the things that I'm going to seek to do if I'm elected as mayor.
And just finally, George, is it Respect that you're running as a candidate for? Respect?
Yes, we're running a slate for the London Assembly in the constituencies and on the list, and we hope to establish a good foothold in that London Assembly, which is largely entirely unknown by Londoners, but picking up lots of wages and expenses for doing very little.
I look forward to talking to you at greater depth, at greater length in the next year or so. That's George Galloway, who has today announced his intention to run as a candidate for London Mayor. The Donkey Derby, I think he called it, in terms of the candidates who have been announced so far. Get your thoughts on Gorgeous George, as he is often referred to as, in a little while. The number 020 722 42000.